Travis, a 22-year-old film student in Hollywood, thinks he has his future figured out. He has a dream and knows the road he must follow to turn it into a reality. In the opening scene, he's kicked out of his friend's house. Simon, his friend, is trying to make it up to him, but to no avail. Travis gets into his car without saying a word and leaves. He has no roof over his head and, as it turns out, no friend to trust, but he has Kristen, a girl who has dreams of her own. She's passing the time, designing fashion clothes while at work when Travis comes in. No wonder this is where he goes first after being kicked out. They kiss each other, and after she shows him her work, the hideous beginning of the day fades away as they close the door and move away from our view. Moving forward, Travis is editing his documentary project in a cafe that afternoon. He's so swallowed by the work that he scarcely notices a girl patting him on his shoulder, asking him to leave if he's not planning to order. So, it's the second time he's been kicked out, even though the day has just started. Next, he visits his mentor, Professor Baker, who's eager to take a look at his progress so far. Travis is also eager to listen to his opinion, so he opens his laptop and starts the film. The struggles of homeless men unfold as Baker's expressions change from confusion to loathing. He stops the film abruptly and lays front all the problems he sees in this so-called documentary. From the pseudo-aesthetic of VCH to an unidentified speaker, it all points to the fact that Travis is screwing around. All of his classmates are already finished. Travis is upset too, after the professor questions his motivation. True emotions burst out of him, saying that he knows the struggle of homeless people. However, from the viewpoint of his mentor, his work doesn't show that. Eventually, he threatened Travis to finish his film by Friday for screening, or he can forget about graduation. As the evening comes, and the tough day ends, he reflects that Hollywood's life might be too much for him. The tempo of life demands all the energy one might have to spare. Travis might be reaching for something he can never grasp. And as he roams the streets, searching for a bed to sleep in, the homeless around him become more visible. He might just be entering their world. How can he write what he knows, when he feels like the world is hiding all the knowledge from him? And so, as desperation creeps up on him slowly, only one message from Kristen is enough for him to smile again. She wants to see him at the park tonight. Thoughts about deadlines fade away in an instant, but the desperation returns in a second as his phone is snatched away from his fingers. The thief runs away, leaving him enraged. And so, now he doesn't even have a phone. Kristen arranges her new work in the next scene and takes photos of them as her brother, Bobby, comes into view, complimenting her. That might be just why Travis isn't staying over at her house. He drives his car near an empty parking lot and sleeps there. The first thing in the morning, he calls her mother. It seems like she didn't want him to get into film school but supported him anyway. So, shamed by his failure, Travis lies to her, saying that his project is all done. He drives home, returning as a failure, but only for a little time. He can't even imagine leaving Los Angeles for good. He has Kristen here, a girl he found in Millions and a girl he has to tell that he's leaving. In the following scene, as they stand at the ridge overlooking the vast city, we understand that Travis has an uncle, named Robin, in Los Angeles somewhere, but he never met him. There was some kind of beef inside his family, but he scarcely knows a thing about it. Kristen advises him to reach out to him, but Travis doubts it. They turn back, both in a great mood, but as they approach the road, Travis snaps and bolts. His car got towed, and with it, everything that he owns. He's stuck in LA now, a city that offers him nothing but struggles and obstacles. And so, as he freaks out, Kristen looks up his uncle's address and sends him there. As he reaches the house, we understand that the uncle must be an owner of an incredible amount of wealth. Travis rings the doorbell and takes another look around the house, but the door remains locked. So he leaves, and as he follows the road back, he sees a man, driving an open-top car, looking like the man he's looking for. Travis runs back, and as the man gets out of his car, he stands beside him. Robin is confused and irritated at first, but after Travis tells him who he is, he's invited inside. They have a fragmented conversation with relatives that haven't been in each other's lives in a while. We understand that the man is all alone and cares only about his job. He has no wife and no children. Carolyn, Travis's mother, didn't talk of his brother much, so the person standing in front of him is completely unknown. It seems like he produced a few TV shows, and that's how he was able to accumulate such wealth. The man makes his way toward the living room, holding 2 cups and a cold beverage, explaining to Travis that mostly he got lazy. Finishing his cocktail, he asks Travis about his life. Travis tells him that he's about to graduate from film school, and this only brings a cynical smile on his face. His nephew is about to join all the rest of the people with meaningless degrees and a handful of unanswered questions. Finally, after annihilating his career plan, Robin offers him a drink to celebrate his graduation, and Travis is once more reminded that he failed in his task. He confesses his failure, but it's close enough for the uncle, and so, they drink the drink that makes Travis lose his feet in an instant. It's the meanest martini, made by the meanest man, as it would seem. The uncle chugs the drink at once with a still and cold expression on his face, and then tells his nephew with an unblinking eye how much he looks like his father. It seems like he was the one that introduced him to Carolyn. But everything about his family is mysterious to Travis, since his scarred mother never talked much about anyone. Finally, Robin tells him that it's not a good time for a lovely family reunion and stands up to see him outside. Travis, knowing that he's his last hope, snaps abruptly and tells him about his struggles. He only needs $500 that he'll return at any cost. Hearing this, his uncle puts on his dominating mask again and leaves without a word, leaving his nephew alone. Travis panics right away. If he leaves empty-handed now, he's as good as done. To his surprise, however, Robin returns in a few seconds and hands him exactly $500. He wishes him good luck and sees him outside, ignoring his attempts to thank him for his generosity. In the following scene, Kristen and Bobby are walking down the street, remembering their childhood and chatting pleasantly. But once they reach their home, their conversation changes course in a blink of an eye. The door isn't locked. It seems like Bobby is involved in illegal activities. Life didn't give them anything, so he has to provide for himself and his sister. Kristen wants to have a choice. She wants to have a different life, but here we see her brother's overprotectiveness. In the evening, Travis travels by bus and gets his car back. Everything is still inside. And so, happy and hopeful, he starts working toward his goal again. That night, he decides to let all the steam out and goes to the club with his friends from the film school. As they speak of the cinema outside, Travis stands quiet, but when he does speak out, Simon asks him about his film. And so, now they discuss the probability of him failing the school, and it's high. As they leave, he asks Simon to stay over at his house for a day, so that he can work quietly. But Simon points to the girl next to him, saying that tonight's a bad time. And so, as only 5 days remain, Travis continues editing in his car. He decides to put all his fears aside and not waste any more time. When the morning comes, we see Travis's uncle visit his friend Wallace. From their conversation, we understand that he doesn't have enough money to move around anymore. He's in desperate need of a new hit and he needs to find it and make it soon at any cost. It doesn't matter if he wants it or not, his new project must appeal to the new generation, or else he's broke. Next, we get back to Travis and Kristen. We follow them as they spend the day together, walking along the coastline in a deserted place, away from the chaos of the city. As the sun begins to sink into the sea, they begin to talk. It seems like if Travis had a chance to talk to anybody, he would choose his father and ask him why he decided to leave his family. But Kristen quickly lightens the grim mood that he sets. And so, after the pleasant conversation that comes next, they just hold hands and watch the sun go down. The day is all simple and beautiful, but as it ends, everything turns upside down. Travis follows her home, where Bobby and his two companions see them. As she glances at her brother, peace flushes down from her face instantly. She rushes into the house, awkwardly aware of the eyes fixated on her. Bobby follows her inside and hits her with questions, demanding the name of the man she was just with, but Kristen says nothing and attacks him in return. Finally, Bobby takes his gun and money and storms out of the house, saying that he has no time for this. For a second, Kristen looks at her brother pass with eyes full of loathing. But soon enough, she takes her phone and the sight of reactions to her new design makes her forget everything instantly. We follow Bobby who makes huge trades and promises to handle them well. It seems like he and Kristen are facing a tough week. The next morning, Travis shows his progress to Professor Baker, who still thinks that it's not enough. The work is again terrible. Finally, after a few cynical remarks, he asks Travis if he has anybody who would give him honest feedback, and Travis can only think of one person. And so, in the following scene, we see him in Robin's house. The uncle needs only a single glance to make up his mind. Firstly, as he chugs his drink, he points out that the aesthetic is terrible, and secondly, it doesn't say anything. The film has no meaningful message. Travis, sleepless and upset, gets infuriated quickly. Why is it that nobody can consider the topic of homeless people important? As if even thinking about them isn't worthwhile. And so, after the disagreement and the emotional outburst, Robin takes off his cruel mask and starts speaking more softly as if he's treading on thin ice. This business that he's so eager to get into is cruel and tough. And if Travis wants to be successful in it, he will have to polish his work and thicken his skin. Afterward, he offers to stay and get a good night's rest. He's also going to have a party later this evening, and it will be a chance for Travis to meet his friends. In the following scene, they are all gathered around the table as Robin introduces Travis. The role of a caring uncle suits him well. The friends seem to be kind toward Travis as well, appreciating his eagerness to talk about homeless people. Finally, they all raise a glass and make a toast for him. It's been a long time since Travis felt warmth from strangers, and so, he's happy and confused all at once. Afterward, Wallace turns to Robin, asking about his love life, and suddenly, he avoids the question and leaves to get a refill. Wallace wonders if he's still not over a woman called Henrietta, and Travis understands just how much he doesn't know about his uncle and his family. So, after the guests leave, they talk some more, filling in the blank pages of Travis's memory. It seems like in childhood he loved ice cream more than anything, and his father was a good man, a painter who could create magic with a single brushstroke. But, all of his paintings are, unfortunately, gone, burned by Travis's mother. People can do all sorts of things if you pressure them enough. The room fills with gloomy energy, but it's scattered quickly as Robin stands up and promises his nephew to show him something great. As they go downstairs, he turns him away, toward the painting, a gift from Travis's father that her sister never found. It's the first time Travis comes in contact with his father. He must have had a vast and exciting universe inside of him. And so, Travis gets closer to the painting, as the tears build up in his eyelids. The next morning, a terrible nightmare wakes him up. It seems like he slept too much. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and he must leave quickly. He thanks Robin and asks him to let him have his things stored here for a while, where they will be safe. After a brief and silent consideration, Robin agrees and encourages his nephew to keep on working on his documentary. There is a heart to it, but he has to work hard to take it out of it and show it to the audience. That day, Kristen gets an email from a studio in New York, offering her a job. Reading about this huge opportunity, her face lights up. She might be moving to New York soon. Meanwhile, Travis meets his friends and spends the whole day with them. Next, her friends encourage Kristen to move to New York and use this rare opportunity. They continuously urge her to go, until she yields and freaks out. Finally, they ask if Travis knows about it yet, and this is the exact moment when he comes into view, asking Kristen what is there that he has to know. And so, they move elsewhere to talk in private. Travis is extremely happy for her, but once she asks him to move with her, he hesitates. Finally, he says that their future hasn't been much of a concern for him lately. In this chapter of his life, he has to focus on himself, rather than her. The delightful expression on Kristen's face fades away quickly. She turns back and storms off. Later that night, as they walk to Kristen's house, Travis tries to make it up to her, saying that he didn't mean what he said. But she's not convinced. He has to let someone into his world, or he will have to have a solitary life. He has no answer to that, so as she slams the door behind her, Travis makes his way slowly toward the street. Suddenly, Bobby storms out of the house and bolts toward him. He gets close and threatens him to never come back here again and stop seeing her sister, or he will have to take violent measures. Travis, who's emotionally unbalanced after what happened today, fights back, shouting that he doesn't know a thing about him, but Bobby lets him know that his parents were killed by it just like him. So, knowing that talking won't do much good for him, Travis turns back and leaves. In Uncle Robin's house, he continues editing his film that night. From this moment, he decides that nothing will distract him from finishing this documentary, since it is the last hope for him, the only thing left in his life to hold on to. The next morning, Travis comes downstairs and lets Robin know that he has finished the movie. He wants his uncle, the man who gave him a helping hand, to attend it. Robin cannot promise anything, however, he has some ice cream to celebrate this occasion. Once they sit down and deal with their cups, Robin suddenly starts telling a story. He says oddly nervously that there was a couple, very much in love with each other. One of them was restless and wild and another one was more sensitive and shy. And all the ordinary things they did together seemed like the most magical moments one could ever have. That's because they were in love and they were truly happy. Maybe that is what Travis needs the most now, love to give meaning to all the ordinary and unordinary things in his life. On his way back downtown, this is exactly what he thinks about, and consequently, we see him enter Kristen's work. Her face turns cold when she catches a glimpse of him, and when Travis starts speaking to win her back, she turns away. As Kristen walks restlessly around the room, as if she wasn't listening to any word he's saying, Travis continues his speech. He knows she should be upset. The words he uttered that day were not truly his, though. He didn't mean them. Now, as he stands here unmoving, he knows if he lets Kristen go alone in New York, he will make the biggest mistake of his life. Kristen is still deep inside her shell, but once she's convinced that Travis is speaking out of his heart, her face lights up. Knowing that whatever happens they will remain together and overcome the struggles of the raging new city, they embrace each other firmly. That afternoon, Travis calls his mother and after a brief small talk mentions his father. He asks why he didn't know that he used to paint. One thing leads to another and finally, Travis breaks it to her that he met Uncle Robin. The woman snaps, freaks out, and demands from his son to stay away from that sick man. There is a lot Travis doesn't know about his family. In the following scene, Robin meets with his new partner, Jake. This young man seems too energetic for Robin's taste. The generational difference between them is extremely evident as they make their way through the yard. When they sit down at a small table, Robin starts pitching his project, saying that if they can get the networks interested, he can dive into writing the pilot scripts right away. He believes that it's really something special. He stands up, excited about telling the idea of a new TV show, but once he's done, we can only see the disappointment in Jake's eyes. Finally, he stops acting and pretending and breaks it to Robin. No one wanted to take him to the agency. Only he was the one, willing to take the risk. But if Robin wants to continue this relationship, then he will have to step up and write something different. After Jake asks if he has something else for him, Robin remains silent for a moment. However, finally, he takes his laptop and Travis's hard drive and hands it to him to take a look. He lies that it's a presentation video that he's currently working on. Right away, Jake mentions that he likes the VCH look. It's great. Jake says he knew he had it in him. He knows exactly how to package this. As Robin's nervousness trembles beneath the calm mask on his face, Jake takes the hard drive and sends it to the office. He thinks they can make a great reality show out of it. At night, Robin is drinking alone. He seems quite drunk. As Travis joins him, he offers to stay and take a bedroom upstairs, but Travis made a promise today that he must keep. Finally, he asks him about his hard drive. He's been searching for it for a while now. And so, Robin lets him know what happened today, thinking that it's great news. But Travis's face turns swiftly from confusion to rage. The screening is tomorrow, he needs his film now. Robin tells him to forget about the graduation and the student film. This TV show can win him a great fortune, and besides, they can work on it together. But Travis's mother paid all her money so that he could graduate, and the conversation quickly turns to fighting. Finally, he snatches the bottle of vodka from the table, saying that his mother was right and storms off. He spends that night in his car, drinking from the bottle he took away from Robin and grieving all his hard work that went into nothing. Tears won't stop, he failed himself and all the people around him. He gets out of the car to breathe some fresh air and cool off. Sitting alone, his breathing is rapid and his heart rate won't change. He fails to calm down. In the following scene, we get back to Kristen and Bobby. The latter is talking to someone over the phone. It seems like he plans to get Kristen involved in his business. As Bobby puts down his phone, she tells him that there's no way she gets involved. But Bobby isn't asking. He's going to Vegas and once he gets back, he'll tell her what to do. That night, Travis goes to Simon's house, pounding on the door. Once it's open, he asks if he can borrow his camera till tomorrow. And as Simon says no, we see Travis enraged, finally getting out of his shell, and fighting. He grabs Simon and tells him that he needs it now. Finally, Simon yields and gives it to him. He sees that Travis is in a hurry and he's in big trouble. Out of nowhere, he realizes that his friend is in desperate need of help. So he offers a hand. Laying on rock bottom, Travis learned a lot. So, as they walk around the city, shooting the new and fresh film, he shares his experience. They work for the entire night. In the morning, Travis edits the rough footage. This time, the VCH look is gone and it's as if the whole movie came right out of his heart. Meanwhile, Kristen and her friends are packing her stuff. Suddenly, one of the friends decides to start filling up the wrong pack. She opens it up randomly and sees all the money inside. They start asking questions and Kristen has no idea how to answer them. In the evening, Jake sends a voicemail to Robin, saying that the homeless project didn't work out. It seems like the whole office wasn't quite fond of that idea, but he's still positive that their next idea will prove to be successful. Robin's enraged and even alcohol cannot soothe his frustration. That night Bobby comes back to town to discover that his house is empty and all the money is gone. He gets his gun, loads it, and calls for Kristen, pounding at her door. But once he realizes that no one and nothing remains in the house, he swiftly leaves. In the meantime, Travis is about to finish his editing and follow Simon. Then, we flash through time and see Kristen, holding the bag full of illegally accumulated money, finding her seat at the screening. She is risking a lot. As she sits there, waiting for the movies, her brother takes one of her friends captive. Everything is happening all at once. The screening is about to start, while Travis's computer struggles to finish editing, and Bobby interrogates Kristen's friend. Tension is rising, rendering takes too much time. And just as Bobby says that they will kill him if he won't give them money and his stern voice is cracked with fear of consequences, the friend breaks her silence and tells him where she is. Meanwhile, rendering is done, and back at the screening Uncle Robin arrives, despite the last hateful interaction with his nephew. Fortunately, it's not too late when finally, Travis arrives at the place. He hands the microSD card, containing the film to the professor and leaves the building. He sits on stairs outside as people watch his film inside. We see their eyes one by one as they fill with sorrow and the stinging emotion that the screen emanates. Flashing through time, we see Travis sitting in the same position again as his friends exit the building. They approach him, complimenting his work and praising him. But once Kristen comes to them, they back off respectively to let them be alone. She embraces Travis, expressing how much she's proud of him, and as they start talking about New York, Professor Baker comes out too. He nods his head and hugs him, smiling in agreement at last. Finally, we hear Uncle Robin, clapping loudly as he makes his way towards him. Travis is still mad at him, so he regards him coldly. Robin, however, admits that he was wrong. He confesses that he has put his needs above others for far too long. Eventually, he tells Travis that he deserves to know what happened to his father. Travis tries to avoid talking about it, but now is the time. Robin puts his hand on his shoulder and after a moment of silence, he reveals a huge secret to him. It seems like the perfect lovers that they spoke about earlier that day were he and Trevor's father. They were strongly in love, and as he forces every word out with all his remaining willpower, the past reveals itself to Trevor, completely changed and true. Robin and his father had to part ways and it killed one and destroyed the other. Afterward, Robin, trembling after sharing this kind of truth, apologizes for everything, and they embrace each other firmly. Finally, the fog has shifted and everything is clear. The truth, despite being bittersweet, still turns out to mend and strengthen their relationship. However, the moment doesn't go on for long. Suddenly, Bobby appears from the corner, tramping toward Travis. He turns him around and as the whole crowd gathers around them, shouts at Kristen. Finally, after accusing Travis of everything, he draws his gun and in a blink of an eye, everything turns black. After a moment, we start seeing from the perspective of the wounded, as he is taken away in the hospital. We see Travis and Kristen, struggling to keep pace, and we realize that Robin was the one taking the shot. And so, in the last scene, Travis takes his father's painting from Robin's wall. He knows that his uncle won't need it anymore in a place where he will reunite with his only love. While back in our world, Travis and Kristen will keep this enormous story of love and death going.